All right, what's up, boys? We're back. Second show, the recap / preview, the hybrid show, moving from Q1 to Q2. What's going on?
Yo, what up? Let's do it. I'm excited for the show, actually. With all the injuries, all the bye weeks starting to come into play, dude, this is going to be legit.
Yeah, man.
My only worry is that our game might be a little too hard.
Like, actually, right?
Yeah.
But
I legit feel a little bit bad for these guys. But I mean, it's this is their game, man. If you're into fantasy football, this is the game for you. It's a lot. I've been just trying to do the notes and everything. There's a lot to consider, a lot of factors.
Exactly, right? And I mean, like, as much as, like, we put our three heads together and we come up with stuff, and we're probably going to miss a bunch of it. That, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how tough this is. But that's what also makes it crazy exciting, because now all of a sudden we're in this position where nobody's had, first of all, content to be doing this in the middle of a season like this.
Yeah.
Like, talking about a draft, like, nobody actually resets the draft board. Like, people love to talk about, like, buy low, sell high, dynasty trades and blah, blah, blah. But, like, the reality of it is, like, you know how many leagues you have to be in to even execute that stuff? And now all of a sudden we're in a format where it's like, no, we can actually capitalize on all of that because we're redrafting this shit tomorrow or Wednesday night. I mean,
I mean, let's say you're sitting in a home league. I know they have some trade calculators out there, but rarely are they accurate. What better way to look at player value than just to redraft?
Exactly. So or to capitalize on your takes, right? Because now it's you can validify, like, your next series of takes effectively, right? Because
you don't get what you say about content, because that was one of our goals, was like, let's create a game where there's no content out there, at least originally. That players can really think of how to attack it on their own, like who can be creative, who understands the game on their own versus who has maybe the best help online.
Yeah, exactly. Boys, with that being said, anything you want to add there, Mark? Let's just jump in and look at what's there's our standings. We are recording this right now prior to the double dip Monday night games. Justin looks to have what we would like to call a stranglehold on, but I want to reverse jinx him here. But it looks like he has, like, that 70-point cushion going into Monday night. All he's got to fade is the Aaron Jones Tonyan stack, basically. What are our thoughts here? We think Justin's got it in the bag?
5 touchdowns and 150 out of Jones and Tonyan. I don't know.
It's in play. It's in play.
But with Devontae Adams out, man, that's going to be a super concentrated offense, and the main 3 pieces are going to be Jones, and MVS and Tonyan for pass catchers. So, we never know. A game against Atlanta, we could see some fireworks. Probably, I'd put it at a 5% chance of scoring that type of pointages, but it could happen.
For sure. Yeah, so one thing that was, we've been looking through here is actually the movement at the top of the leaderboard, though there is the prize for the 101 finish here. But the points are so important if you're in this vicinity of, like, 3 to 9 and whatever, because it gives you still contention for the overall. And, like, there's some interesting strats, playing out there. Like, Dan, what were you talking about here with Scoundrel in particular, right?
Yeah, another one of Mark's posse here. He has a big Monday night coming up. He's got Aaron Rodgers, Calvin Ridley, MBS, and then James White is playing tonight. So I think he is kind of at the bottom. If you go back to the standings, there's kind of a tier break right after him, and a lot of folks right in front of him. So you could potentially even see him probably in 4th or 5th place if tonight goes well. So very interesting. That's the difference between, maybe scoring 4 points in Q1 versus scoring 8 or 9, which is a significant advantage as you go along.
Yeah, just to, like, remind everybody who's watching, is effectively we score points in reverse of a top-down finish. So first place will get 12 points here, along with the $500 for the quarter. And then that'll work its way down 11, 10, etc., all the way down to 1 point, which looks like CD might have that one locked up here. But
he's got Tyreek going.
Oh, he's still got Tyreek. So yeah, anyways, but it's a very good point, because it's a huge Monday night to push you into contention for the overall. And playing into that Monday night decision was what we're calling, or what we've dubbed, the Davis decision here, because
my history books will show.
Yeah,
right. 10 years from now, when your kid is looking through his history books and he sees the Davis decision,
do you remember
what he's talking about.
The Davis decision of 2020? Do you guys remember? Yeah. Right? But effectively, so we talked about this a little bit. Davis is sitting here, going into Sunday. He was sitting in second or third place, one of the two, but he basically had all Chiefs and gets that COVID news scare. And they're talking maybe play Monday, maybe play Tuesday. Like, with the benefit of hindsight, now we know they're playing tonight. But he effectively had the decision, because we're redrafting after this week, that he could have dropped he had no fab left, but he could have put $0 bids in and dropped all of his Chiefs. He had Connor as well, who factored into the COVID thing. So he could have dropped all his guys and just filled the slots, trying to, score a couple points to make sure he could solidify not falling from second to sixth or whatever. I mean, what would you guys have done?
It was definitely a crazy decision by him to roll the dice. In my mind, in season long, I was sitting most of my Chiefs and Patriots, just trying to take points where I could get them, because I thought there was a pretty fair chance of another member of either of those teams, popping positive when they retested yesterday, and then they retested again this morning. And we know COVID has like a 5-day incubation period, and we don't know when Cam was exposed, or the backup Tua, or what is his name? I forget. The backup quarterback for
practice squad guy.
Who popped positive as well. And these are guys who are touching the football on every play. So I think maybe next week we might see some more pop up from these teams, but. Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting decision. I like that he went for it and, took the gamble in this format where every, standings for each week or for each quarter, rather, is so important for the overall. So I like that he went for it.
Yeah, I mean, before Justin dropped like the 155 this week, like there's an outlying scenario that he drops, 68, 100, like whatever, somewhere, like has an absolute floor week, and Davis holding on to those Chiefs gives him a shot at the overall as well. So it's an interesting balancing act. Dan, what would you have done?
Yeah, I'm a mask on guy myself, so I probably would have done the same thing as you guys and dropped those players and picked somebody up, but that would have been the wrong strategy, not only in hindsight, but from the outset. I think that would have been the wrong strategy, just because the upside is there. And in a 4-week contest, like, you're not looking at your overall points for the entire season. I think the downside wasn't as much as I would have thought. If he just finished the week with like what does he have now, 65, 70 points, something like that, then oh well. You're finishing in 8th or 9th place and come back at it again next quarter with another shot at it, as opposed to having it being now 100 points behind and really in the hole for a season-long game.
Absolutely.
So I think the Davis decision, he made the right one, and kudos to him for balls to the wall, man. No fear.
Yeah, I mean, he comes out there tonight now with a position to basically finish third tonight if he has kind of like a floor output from those Chiefs guys. So he gave himself a shot at the overall. It was super high variance, but he gave himself a shot at the overall and gave himself a shot at, third or fourth, getting good points moving into the next quarter.
Yeah, he's probably the biggest Brian Hoyer fan tonight.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about that second quarter. So the next format, best ball, we are redrafting on Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Going to live stream that, 7 p.m. Pacific for those who can't do the math in their head. And yeah, it's basically same lineups. 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 3 flex, 8 bench. And the difference being bye weeks, best ball, and all the injuries and value shifts that have occurred thus far. Just as an overarching strat, how you guys approaching this one?
One, I'm obviously elevating guys on my rankings who do not have a bye in the next 4 weeks. And we've got a slew of bye weeks coming up. Week 5 is Detroit, Green Bay. Week 6, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Saints, the Seahawks. Week 7 is a big one. Baltimore, Indy, Jacks, Minnesota. Week 8, Arizona, Denver, Houston, Washington. So, and we initially had the Steelers and the Titans in there as well, but they obviously had their bye week this week.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting dynamics with all the bye weeks coming up. So some of these guys who they're drafting for a quarter, they're only going to get 3 quarters of for this section.
Which is effectively like it's a quarter of the season, right? Like we're playing in this isolated window. That's like drafting a guy in August who's going to be missing 4 weeks. So like, you'd be thinking about like the Le'Veon Bell decision when he was holding out 2 years ago. And you're going like, well, is Lev Bell now a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, or am I still taking a shot on that upside in the 3rd round, like assuming I get 12 weeks out of him, right? It is a very interesting dynamic. Dan, what's your overarching approach and mindset to the best ball?
Yeah, one thing with that was Detroit and Green Bay, I believe, are buys in week 5, but I kept those players pretty elevated in my rankings just because I know the situation in week 5. Like I know because it's best ball, we won't have waivers, we won't have ad drops. So I would like to the guys that I have buys, I want those more immediate because I know more about the situation versus week 8. As crazy as the season has gone, we likely won't know very much about that situation. So
that's actually a really good point. Just in terms of like nobody planned for Steelers, Titans buys in week 4, right? So we can read into those bye weeks as much as we want, but they are ever shifting as well, which is a weird dynamic.
Yep. Yeah. So, and then the other thing is just really value at any position right now. Just the way scoring has been, the tiers from those top players down to like a QB12, RB12, WR12 is massive. So I am clicking on value players regardless of position and getting as much of those as I can.
Okay, let's talk more about that. Let's talk more like specifically about that, just in terms of like players you're expecting to see a value shift in. So, we've had some major pops, and how this draft board is going to look considerably different than, the first round. But who specifically are we excited to see a value shift in?
Kareem Hunt is the big one, with Chubb expecting to miss 4 to 6 weeks, probably on the heavier side of that. So that's the entire quarter. So Chubb, I'd expect to go in the top 6 picks.
You mean Hunt? You'd expect to go?
Sorry, yeah, Hunt. I'd expect to go in the top 6 picks. If he's outside of that, I'd be surprised, actually.
Yeah, it's fun here. Sorry, Mark, to cut you off. It's fun just because to jump ahead at a couple of these over-unders, and that's one of them. One of them was Kareem Hunt over-under the 106. And I personally think Kareem Hunt with no bye and given the role and the talent, I think it's a bit insane to be like, 101 contender, but 101 contender, I mean, Dan?
Not for me. watching the game. Like Hunt has more. Obviously, he's going to take over more of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get more work, but it's not he's not like getting Sanders or CMC level work. So I would actually be more interested in Ernest Johnson. It looks like Hilliard is going to be their other pass catching back, but Ernest looks like he'll fill the role of Nick Chubb.
Yep.
So I think 106 is probably fair. I probably wouldn't be the one to draft him myself. But yeah, this is the dream scenario. The other thing is that the Browns get the Colts and the Steelers in the first 2 weeks. So not ideal in terms of schedule, even though they do play all four.
Yeah, that's a great point. But then the counter to that is prior to the 106, you got Cook's got a bye, Aaron Jones has a bye, Alvin Kamara has a bye, Josh Jacobs has a bye. I'm doing this top of mind. Chris Carson, not really a factor, has a bye. Who did you say, Mark?
I said and everyone else is hurt.
Yeah, and everybody else is hurt, right? Okay, so spin it back. Let's go back to other players we're excited to see the value shift in. Personally, Mike Davis, really excited to see, is he a fringe first rounder? Is he a rock solid back end first guy? I don't know. What do you guys think?
James Robinson in that same category.
Yeah, interesting because he's got the bye too. So Robinson would have been like one of those guys where it's like, we could see him going at the 1-2 turn, but then you factor in the bye and you go, well, wait a second, is this guy legit? Does this guy now become a value in the third? Like, I don't know.
He's another one who I believe will be overpicked.
Okay.
Just because he has the bye, but he also has the Chargers. He plays the Chargers in one of those weeks. So you're really only, floor game, like you'll get enough out of him, probably, but he does get the Lions and then the Texans. So there are a couple good weeks there, but again, it's going back to like how many weeks do you want out of your top, let's say 3-4 round players.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't put him up there myself, but he looks great.
Yeah. Couple other names that I'll throw out there. Justin Jackson, you mentioned Ernest Johnson, Chase Edmonds, Damon Harris. I don't know. That was just kind of based on tonight. Like if he gets activated, if he doesn't, it sounds like he's not going to be. T. Higgins, LaVisca, Scotty Miller, Greg Ward, Tim Patrick. Just a bunch of fringe names that I don't know. Maybe these are some pop guys in this format, given the fact that, given the schedules, given the opportunity. Any other names come to mind there, boys?
No, you pretty much nailed all of the recency bias players. Yeah. So it's going to be super interesting. And one of the things that I've really jumped into pretty heavily over the last year or so is game theory and psychology with respect to its application to fantasy football. And recency bias is such a huge part of that. So it's going to be super interesting to see these players who, had one pop week in week 3 or week 4, and it's in the back of everyone's mind, like, hey, where do I value this guy for the next 4 weeks? So that's going to be super interesting kind of case study for me with those guys that you mentioned particularly.
Yeah, speaking of that recency bias, 3 guys that I'm really excited to see the value shift in: Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I would have Calvin. I actually have Calvin Ridley as my wide receiver 1 for this quarter.
Wow.
He's got the opportunity. The schedule is like nuts. He gets let's see. He gets the Panthers twice, and then he gets Minnesota and Detroit.
Let's go.
Ridley, Julio are to me both top 5 wide receivers.
Yeah.
I still have Diggs up there. Diggs gets the Titans, the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Patriots. After I think he's the league leader in receiving yards right now, along with DK Metcalf. So those are 3 receivers that I would expect to go maybe the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I might take Diggs out at like 112, 2-1, something like that.
Nuke there as well, although he's got the bye. But I mean, Nuke was a late second rounder for season long, and now he's going to be a bona fide first.
Yeah, I mean he went 210 to Curtis in our draft, and now well, it's interesting factoring in the bye. Does he still make it to 210?
I think
that's a tough one, and they need to do some work. So I think his bye is in week 8.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would prefer if his bye was a little bit earlier, just because they do get the Jets and the Cowboys and the Seahawks, but it would be nice if that bye was a week 5 bye, and then they could fix other things on offense, because Kyler is not. He looks like he's regressed a little bit. I think Nelson said that online. Great runner, but as far as throwing the ball, it's not quite there yet. So
running back who throws.
Yeah, hopefully they catch a rhythm, but yeah, I expect D-Hop to be the overall WR1 at the end of the year. So, big on him. He's killing it. By the way, his nickname is Nuck, not Nuke. Not like a nuke bomb. What?
Same thing.
His nickname's he's named after the pacifier.
Yeah, come on now.
Not a nuclear bomb. He's a man of peace. He's a pacifist, not a warmonger.
He's been a nuclear bomb this quarter.
He goes to war, yeah.
All right.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to look that up, because I think in the name of that pacifier brand, there's like a long acento or whatever the hell you call it in whatever language it is.
Well, I don't know whatever language that is.
Look that up.
You know how I know I don't know that language? Because I only know one. English.
Well, there you go. Well, I think it's got like that bar over it, over the U. So I don't know. It might be long. I don't know.
All right, boys.
We'll find out and update you guys on the next.
Yeah, God damn it! It's the important shit.
All right. Players, you guys personally be targeting in this quarter, considering everything we've talked about, the buys, the best ball, the everything. I got a couple names that I think are going to be undervalued here. You want me to go first, or you guys want to go first?
You go first. I get scared.
Let's hear you.
I don't remember in front of people.
I'm thinking Jamison Crowder, Deebo Samuel, Rojo, and DJ Moore are my buys for this quarter.
Ooh.
All right. Derrick Henry.
Okay.
No bye week.
And 101 contender.
Yeah, he's come out super slow.
Yeah.
And Aaron Jones is hard to ignore. We don't know how long Devontae Adams is going to be out. Looks like he's going to be out again this week, which going into the bye is smart. I respect that decision to hold him out, even though he wanted to play, it sounds like. But Devontae Adams is actually a buy as well for me. Get that bye week out of the way early, and then hopefully he'll be healthy coming back. And he leads the league in targets since he came back from injury last year. So Devontae Adams should be up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, if Adams sits tonight, then they got the bye next week, and then he just pops for 3 weeks. You could win this quarter by getting him at the middle second.
Yeah,
or off. Dan, you got some more names for me or what?
Yeah, so I mentioned a couple already, but I also have Juju and James Washington. No buys. Deontay had the concussion. He'll probably be back, but still, James Washington is a great best ball type, and I think this is the quarter that you get a couple good games out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Deebo, obviously Deebo coming back. Ayuk is very impressive. Like he scored a crazy touchdown the other night, but I do expect Deebo to be the WR1 there, and he'll probably get 8 to 10 opportunities a game. So I'll take that out of the 49ers. Sticking with the 49ers, I also have Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon has been, I think he got like 80% of the opportunities last night. That's pretty impressive in the 49ers office. I'll take that. Mostert might come back, but still I'm sticking with it. He's getting the passing game work there. I expect him to finish the year as a back end RB1. So he's a big target for me in this quarter. I also like Brian Hoyer. They get the Broncos, 49ers, Bills, and Jets this quarter. And who knows how long Cameron's going to be out. I don't know.
So you are like personally projecting Cam to be out like longer than a week or two.
Yeah. I just think the potential is there. If I'm drafting a best ball team today, I am going with Dak, Mahomes, Allen, or Ryan. The QB1 right now has QB1, QB2, and QB3 have a 12-point advantage, points per game over your QB12. So that's pretty big. That's not as much as like Kamara over the field, but it is as valuable as picking a top player at any other position. So I'm grabbing one of those guys early. I would actually put Dak right now. I would put Dak, Mahomes, Allen all in the top 2-3 rounds.
Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah. So you're hammering on some of the things I wanted to talk about. So let me just jump in for a second. We were going to talk about the Dak, Mahomes, or Lamar. Can we throw Allen in that? I kept Wilson.
You can replace Lamar with Allen.
With Allen, okay, and we can take Wilson out just because of the effective bye. So who's your QB1 for this quarter?
Dak.
Dan?
Yeah. I would take the last one of the top three. I would probably put Josh Allen as the QB1 right now.
Okay, so if you put Allen,
for this quarter, not for the overall season.
Yeah. So if you take Allen as your QB1, you can effectively sit and take the third or fourth QB and still get your QB1. Yeah,
that's how I would approach it. I would grab one of those, and then I'd pick up Hoyer and Ben Roethlisberger late.
So that's a really interesting thing that I wanted to talk about with the show too. Is we only have an 18-player roster for best ball. So how many quarterbacks and how many tight ends are you taking?
Yeah.
Right?
But the interesting thing about it too is there's a huge case for tight end early, especially in best ball with this, because you can play them in the flex, right? So if someone just paints it gray early, I mean, that could be nasty in best ball and not have to make the decision.
Yeah, with all the uncertainty, we got bye weeks, we got COVIDs popping up. Like, how many quarterbacks do you take? How many tight ends do you take? Like, people are gonna, if you take two quarterbacks, like, what happens if one's on bye and the other's popped with COVID?
Right.
It's crazy, interesting dynamic. We're going to see, I think, guys approach it with the more risk of taking two quarterbacks. And I think we're going to see guys approach it with more safety and taking three. And I think it depends.
Personally, I would take three, but I'd punt. That's what I would do. I would punt, and I would try and take like Minshew, Herbert, and Fitzmagic, but not
quarterback
Fitzmagic.
7 Minshew?
Say again?
Quarterback 7 Minshew?
Yeah. Exactly. See? Let the people know.
One approach could be, obviously, if you took Kelsey, you'd get there's no bye for the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. So to me, that would be a different approach. I would just take one tight end. And I would take one of the top, like, even if they have a bye, I'd probably take Kittle or Waller or something like that. And then just take one.
Waller has the bye. Waller has the bye. Andrews has the bye. So this was another one of my questions is, can we push Kittle and Kelsey into before 108?
Highly likely, I think.
Like, given the uncertainty and the amount of buys. So I think it's more likely that we see 4 running backs, 2 tight ends, and then another running back before we see the first wide receiver off the board in this quarter.
You might be right. I think what I would do is kind of what I've been hinting at would be just a rainbow draft. I would probably get one of each before the first 4 rounds are over.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then just filling in after that, I mean, a couple other notable like running backs I had were Brian Hill. I think Brian Hill you could probably get later than like the 6th, 7th round. and he's definitely. I think he'll be an RB2 over the next 4 weeks. And then Joshua Kelly, I know he fumbled, but no Eckler.
Here we go. The Kelly one that I set might be super high, but I set the Kelly at the 206.
Yeah, you have to consider. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
In a draft of sharps, dude, it's got to be later than that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kelly will probably go later, and then Justin Jackson will probably be in that 6th, 7th round range.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably too early for me on Kelly, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody took him there. They get the Saints, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Jags. So
exactly,
Saints are a rough matchup, but the other 3 are good to go.
That's tough.
That's tough, Mark.
Saints, Jets, who else?
Jets, Dolphins, and Jags.
Oh, okay. So two poor matchups and 2+.
Yeah. All right. Here, let's okay, so Dan just hit on a couple of names and has already talked about a little bit of this, but let's just jump in here. 101 contenders. We have the draft board. Let's see how. So if you're on the clock, ship chasing 101 contenders, we'd be looking most likely at Henry, Zeke, Kamara. Then you factor in the Kamara bye. How far does Kamara fall for you guys?
Probably middle to late first. The issue with Kamara that I don't know how many of these guys are going to pick up on is his splits without either Latavius Murray or Mark Ingram, and without Michael Thomas are insane. So he goes from averaging 20.2 points per game, which he landed right at that in week 4, with Michael Thomas and those other running backs, one of those other 2 running backs, because we go back 3 years with Ingram in the lineup. And then without, he jumps up to like 40.4 points per game, which is insane. So we have Michael Thomas likely coming back next week. We have a bye week in week 6. So maybe they hold MT out in week 5. Let them heal up through their bye in week 6. I don't know how they're going to handle that. But also in games where New Orleans is projected to be passing more, so negative game scripts, obviously Kamara jumps off the page. And we saw the opposite of that in Detroit, where Latavius Murray took on a much heavier workload and found the end zone twice. So super interesting case study to see where he'll end up.
Yeah, I mean, that game started so good because they were down 14, and you're like, oh, here comes the Kamara smash script. And then, it just didn't turn out that way. Okay, Dan, 101, who you got?
I'm probably, if I actually have the 101, I'm probably going Kelsey or Kittle.
Oh, interesting. I like it.
Go back and show who's the 1.01.
What's that?
I said go back and show the draft order.
Yeah.
Is 1.01, and they're anti-running back, so I could see Kelsey going 101.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Would you guys take Kelsey or Kittle? Like, Kittle smashes last night with Beathard at quarterback effectively. I mean, it was a split, but is Kittle your guy now? Like, is Kittle a 101 here, or is it Kelsey if you're going tight end?
I'm taking Kelsey personally.
I probably lean Kittle. I think he's the best skill position player in the game right now. I think that the offense, like I said, Debo is coming back, and he'll get his 8 to 10 touches a game. But you're not looking at a situation where he even has really a 1A. He's the one in that offense. He's the alpha. And it's San Francisco. They have the best roster in the league. So, yeah, I'm taking that. If he's really going to get that much opportunity every week, like we saw last night, then he's the 101 for me, and then I'll build around that.
I like it. That's fun because honestly, like, I hadn't really thought tight end at the 101. I was just kind of like, Yeah, I'll take Henry, Zeke, CEH, or Hunt, Mixon, Sanders, that sort of thing. But I hadn't even thought about, tight end 101. That's a fun build too, especially if you're talking about your rainbow strat where you can go, if you come all the way back around at that 2-3 turn and you take the quarterback of your choice as the third, and then you take, whomever, running back or wide receiver, as the other one. That's a fun start.
Yeah, you could start a draft if you just go QB tight end like at 101 and then 212. Then you'd probably be starting 20 points clear on everybody else in the league at those two positions combined. So that's a pretty big advantage. I get that it's not as popular maybe as running backs or wide receivers, but I think we've seen so far like you can build around that core. I think a lot of cores, teams with cores like that are doing well so far. So,
playing into that, the Kamara thing, I had a fun one here. Who you guys got, Mixon, Sanders, or Kamara this quarter?
This quarter?
This quarter.
Kamara.
So you'll take 3 games out of Kamara instead of the 4 out of those other 2.
Yeah, because the floor and ceiling is just so much higher per week when he is playing. In a best ball format, I'm okay taking 3 out of 4 weeks and making sure through sound roster construction that I'm shoring it up.
So it's interesting because you effectively, this will be the decision. Whoever's picking from the 105, 104, this will be the decision. I mean, you could factor in like the tight end and the other tight end that's left or whatever. I don't know. I just found it fun. Dan, what do you think there?
Yeah, that's another reason why I didn't want to take a running back at 101. Was just because I don't have a clear RB1 for this quarter. I agree with Mark on the Kamara thing. Michael Thomas comes back, and I still think he's a top 3 back with Michael Thomas back. There's no doubt about that. He's probably even the overall still, but I just think it takes a little bit off of his game, certainly. A little bit off the upside. So I don't know if I'd have him as the RB1 for the quarter. I think I would probably have Joe Mixon, but it's just tough, man. It's tough to trust Zach Taylor. He's got everything that he needs there to have a great offense, and we saw that this past weekend. But can he put it together? Can he get the offense working together? The offensive line looked a lot better, but and that's something I do believe in with that coaching staff because they fixed a really bad offensive line last year by the end of the year. So we'll see. The other thing about Mixon this quarter is he does get the Colts and the Ravens, which I believe are 2 top 5 run defenses. So that makes it a little bit tougher. But you saw what he can do. Offense is very clearly much more successful when he's the focal point of the offense. So I would probably have him as my RB1. Going into this quarter, but I'm fading running backs in this situation. So I wouldn't get him.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
Yeah. The interesting thing with the bye weeks that like Mark just touched on is he'd rather have 3 weeks of Kamara than 4 weeks of a guy who's effectively going to go 1 draft slot behind him.
Because it's in the best ball format, you're looking for spike week potential. And I think that not only does Kamara bring a higher floor, so safety in the first round, but his spike week potential in those 3 weeks is much higher than Sanders and Mixon, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's entirely fair. But that just plays into how cool this like overarching format and the draft strat associated with it is because, I mean, you can make that case, absolutely. And Dan can make the case for Kelsey at 101. Like it's so cool. Like just how we're gonna see this unfold.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you can be as stupid as you want in this league. That's the great thing. Every other league in the world, there's like some sort of excuse, like, oh, this player got hurt, this that happened, and whatever, and it was not my best time. I was sort of sleepy when I was drafting. No excuses in this league, bro.
Yeah.
No excuses. Because you had a chance to redraft 4 weeks in.
Exactly.
and you knew the lay of the land. So I'm specifically talking to CD Carter right now.
Well, it's interesting because you see it in like season long. You can just be sitting there with, we talked a bit before where you could be sitting there with like AJ Brown and CMC on your team and be like, oh, LOL variants, and throw your hands up. Like now it's just kind of like, holy smokes, we get the redraft. Like we're actually going to see who's sharp enough to figure this out and redraft this thing. Right. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think you could point to variance and injury luck and for Noah's season thus far, but he gets to repick. So
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, excuses are over. I was talking about last time how we kind of had him pinned as like our maybe underground guy that would win it all, but so far not great. He'll have to bring the hammer.
You brought the props in with you, dude?
No, I just had to fix something, so it was right here.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I just playing around.
People love prop comedy, dude.
Yeah, you had it planned.
Bring the hammer, Noah. Bring the hammer. That's pretty good. That'll be my thing.
That's too good. Well, it is your thing. It's now your thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that like 4 more times. Bring the hammer.
Oh man. All right, boys. Who's got one more here? Who's first WR off the board? I think the value shift and the injuries that have occurred at both the running back and the wide receiver position are like abundantly clear. But I think there's a more consensus top 3 kind of like running backs for this quarter, or top 5, call it. I don't think the same can be said for wide receiver. Do you guys agree, disagree with that?
Yeah, it's gonna probably boil down to how people choose to navigate the bye weeks, because if Arizona didn't have a bye, for example, I think, Nuke would be the 101 of wide receivers, but we'll see how people choose to kind of handle that. We could see, because Dallas is popping off and they don't have a bye, we could see Amari be the first wide receiver off the board. We just don't know.
I have top 7. I went Ridley, Diggs, Julio, Tyreek, Juju, Keenan Allen. No buys for any of those guys. And then I have Galladay because he does have a bye, but like I said, it's week 5 where we know the situation a little bit better. And then he gets Jacksonville, Atlanta, big game, and then he finishes with the Colts. So those are 7 names that I picked out that I would probably be targeting earlier in the draft. I mentioned Ridley is my 101. I have Diggs as my 102, I guess, or WR2 is a better way to put that.
WR2, yeah. Like I'm really interested in seeing where the talented injured players go. I'm very excited to see where Michael Thomas goes, where Chris Godwin goes, where AJ Brown goes, because all these guys are going to be drafted, and it's just a matter of where. And depending on how they come back, I mean, you can get some smash value in like the 3rd or 4th on a guy that of big name value, like top 3, top 2 round talent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're avoiding like hamstring situations. Godwin, I wouldn't draft. I would be looking at players who are definitely coming back, have minor injuries. We mentioned Debo. Debo, I would have as AWR1 for this quarter as well. We got to see him in action. We know he's healthy. He didn't get a ton of work last night, but the upside is there. And those are the type of players that I would be targeting, because I think you could still probably get them a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Who goes first, Mark? CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup?
CeeDee, probably. Recency bias, CeeDee.
Do you agree with that?
Hall of Fame bias.
He's got great hair and he's got great hands. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
before the year, he's a Hall of Famer. He looks like a Hall of Famer. Man, give him the gold jacket.
Yeah, he looks like DeAndre Hopkins running routes completely. it's almost like a clone. That said, the Cowboys have been very clear how they're going to utilize their wide receivers. Gallup is the deep threat. So in a best ball format, I like the spike week potential there. People are going to be down on him for recency bias. I like at ADP, I like Gallup over CD, what I expect their ADP to be. Then you have Amari Cooper, who's working the primarily intermediate to deep routes, and then CD is working primarily short to intermediate routes. So I think CD has seen a couple of big spike week games, obviously because of the spike in volume. I mean, Dak is throwing 50, 60 times a game in the first 4 weeks, and I don't know if that's going to hold true moving forward. So,
yeah, I might agree with that, actually. It would be, I think a fun pairing would be Gallup and Cedric Wilson. I think he would do quite well with those two. You could probably get 3 to 4 usable weeks out of them combined. So
yeah, and probably 8th to 10th round for Gallup, something like that. We'll see where he lands, but
that's a pretty fun, cheap stack if you grab Dak early.
Yeah,
like just it's pretty hard. I mean, the other one would be like if you grab Josh Allen early and then you just 12th, 13th round Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, Gabriel Davis. And then, those high volume offenses, I think I would probably – Noah Brown is another one in Dallas that you probably get in the last round. Mm-hmm. And then some of the Cincinnati guys like Mike Thomas. Some of just the high volume offenses, Zacchaeus in Atlanta. Some good last round wide receiver potential.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, boys, let's wrap it up. Little preview to Q2. We're going to give the people each 2 overvalued and 2 undervalued targets for this upcoming quarter. Wrap a bow on this thing. Dan, you go first. Hit me with it. Who you got as overvalued this quarter?
Yeah, overvalued number 1, I have Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm not sure that he makes it through the quarter. He's serviceable, but he's not the future. And with the schedule that he has coming up, it makes it a little bit more difficult for him not only to hang on to his job, but also to stay healthy. If you watch how he runs with the ball, he's a great runner, but he puts himself into situations where he's not avoiding contact. So I would be avoiding Fitzpatrick and then coming back with Tua in the next quarter, or Fitz if he's still standing. Overvalued, I also have Jamison Crowder, hot start for him, but Sam Darnold, not a great quarterback, but better than what's there after him, and probably makes the most of the situations for Crowder. He puts Crowder in good situations a lot of times to catch the ball, so I would expect less from Crowder in the next 4 weeks. And then I have Jonathan Taylor, great running back. Looks like he's pressing a bit much. Looks like he does have some growth in him. Like he's not there yet. And they're still splitting the backfield 3 ways. So is what it is at this point. I think this is probably it's a juicy apple sitting out there. I'm sure somebody's going to take him early, but for me, I would probably avoid him. And then undervalued, I have Njoku coming back.
Hold on the undervalue. Let's see Mark's overvalued first.
Overvalued. Bring the hammer first.
Yeah. Overvalued Odell Beckham Jr. Coming off that ripe 3 touchdown game. The usage just isn't there in the way that Cleveland likes to try and win games, run the football. So obviously they're playing Dallas and they opened that offense up a little bit. He scored 2 trick plays on this past weekend, 1 end around and 1 pass from Jarvis Landry. So definitely overvalued.
Sounds sustainable.
Yeah. I could see him jumping into the first 2 rounds, and I think he'll be vastly overvalued there. And then a dude I've been kind of low on all offseason in Josh Jacobs.
That's fair. My overvalued, both teams have buys and both have been moving on offense. And I think as a result, The Seahawks wide receivers are both going to be overdrafted in Lockett and Metcalf in this quarter. And even though they provide those pop games that we're looking for, I just think they'll be overvalued in this quarter at where you have to pay for them. And any Ravens running back, they effectively are just a full three-way rotation, and their best running back is their quarterback. In terms of undervalued, who we targeting, Dan?
Yeah, so Njoku, he had a good week 1, and then he was out the rest of the quarter. I like him coming back as a late round tight end. I also like Jarek. I know I mentioned him earlier, but I think he's a potential RB1 for this quarter and for the year. And then T. Higgins as well. Like I said, I think he's probably moving into the WR1 role in the Bengals offense. He's talented enough to do it. And I think that he finishes the quarter in WR1 range.
Wow, nice. Mark?
Undervalued, starting at the wide receiver position, F1 McLaurin. He had an absolutely brutal start to the season in his first 4 weeks, and he still is performing. So I'd look to him as a bona fide wide receiver 1 for quarter 2. And he's probably
a brutal start in terms of the matchups, right? Like he had Shadow from Tough, right? Who I can't remember. Slay for sure. I can't remember who else was on that list, but
yeah. And then Myles Gaskin over at the running back position from Miami. Their schedule should soften up a little bit. And he's seeing, I guess we'll call it tier 2 usage in that offense. So, elite is like 80 to 80 plus snap rate for a running back. And then tier 2, I'd call 60 to 80% of snap rate. And he's right in the thick of that, seeing typically between 60 and 70% of snaps for Miami.
Mm-hmm. In that same vein, though, like when Howard gets all that goal line work, he could just fall in the end zone twice in a best ball format, being taken in like the 12th round or whatever, right? Like
3 of the 4 touchdowns for Jordan Howard so far have come from DPI in the end zone. So it's super not sticky. Miami has issues getting into the end zone to begin with, into the red zone, that is. And so it's super just smells of high variance for Jordan Howard.
All this Miami talk is going to make me look really stupid when I tell you guys that I like Preston Williams. Like that's who I like as one of my undervalued. But I also like Teddy Bridgewater. Really nice schedule coming up. Atlanta twice in this quarter. There's some pop weeks potential there for Teddy Bridgewater, and in the same vein, DJ Moore. So the volumes there, the touchdowns haven't been. Anyways, boys, looking forward to the big draft coming up. Q2, best ball, all the personalities will be back. Live stream Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Can't wait for it.
Let's go.
Wait for it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Couple other notes, just how part of how we develop this game. There's kind of just different breaks in the schedule for the NFL. We're now moving into bye weeks. We've talked about a lot, but the other thing we're moving into is divisional games. So each division in the NFL has its own identity and its own brand of football, and those things will become more apparent. So
true.
NFC sucks, but when the NFC plays itself, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. So true.
So different perspective, as it will be when we come into Q3. The season will be in a much different place as well as teams start to look towards pushing for the playoffs and things like that. So, yeah, we're happy to have the players that we do. I'm excited to see what they come with in this quarter. I think it will be highly entertaining for me to watch. But also, if you're out there and you're looking for trade values, kind of a market update on where players are at, this is a great way to do it. We have some of the top players in the game doing this, and they're entertaining as well. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Mark?
That's it, man. Let's go.
That's it. That's all. All right. Later, boys.
Yeah.
Fucking hammer.